What's wrong? Nothing. You sure? You don't look great. She's gone. Who has? Who's gone?
Varadero 125. It's gone.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just sat here, bikeless. No bike at all. Oh dear. Okay, well we could talk about it if you want. Tell people about it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk about it. Good. The Varadero 125 has just departed. It's gone. It's out of here. And yeah, I think that you get that first bike type feeling of nostalgia and you don't want it to go. But actually, it was done its time. It's done its time. And I have my test in the next couple of weeks. For my Mod 2, so I'm really looking forward to really getting out there and looking for a new bike now. But what I really wanted to do was give you a complete rundown of the Varadero XL 125. So firstly, why did I choose the Varadero 125? So the bikes that I originally looked at in around January, February when I first started doing training and CBT. So I am 6'3", I'm 105 kilograms, my BMI is 28.7, so I am firmly in the overweight section of BMI, and I need to lose 5.3 aim to lose 5.3 kilos. Recommended daily calorie intake of 2,400. I'm not small, and the biggest worry I think is for bigger riders is looking stupid on a 125 or a learner bike, or sounding stupid. So sounding that horrible tinny whiny sound of motorbikes that you hear go by at 125. I know it's fine and people are learning, that's great, but if you're a big guy you just don't want to look stupid. You don't. So I did my fair share of looking around the Honda CB125R, the Mutt Mongrel, the Aprilia RS 125, the Yamaha YBR 125. Far too small for me, looks stupid. And I looked at really old Yamaha DT 125s, I think the scrambler bikes, but again, I don't want to be riding a scrambler around. I need an all-rounder. I wanted to commute to work. I wanted to go on maybe quite a few long distance rides to Bournemouth and Poole, which is about a 3-hour trek for me on A-roads. I went across loads of different forums and came across a number of comments saying the Varadero is the only option if you're 6'2 plus and don't want to look stupid on the bike. So I don't like the looks of the Varadero, I had to say, from the front of the fairing. It's just not my style. I really like the XSR 700, XR 900 style of bike. So I just didn't want the Varadero, but having gone to see it and sat on it, it's the only bike that I feel really comfortable with.
So the Varadero 125, mine's a 2008 plate, and I think they stopped making them in 2012. Its displacement is 125 centimeters on a 4-stroke engine on a 90-degree V-twin. Has 14.2 brake horsepower and torque 10 Newton meters at 8,500 RPM, and 4 cylinders, fuel injected system with single overhead cam. It's 5-speed gearbox, and the front suspension is 35mm. Telescopic fork, and the rear suspension is a monoshock swing arm with adjustable spring preload. That's one area I have actually had to replace. The wheelbase is 1,450 millimeters, ground clearance 190 millimeters, and a fuel capacity of 4.4 gallons, which gives me around about 80 miles to the gallon. Just going back to down to the rear, you've got the Jiffy panniers that I've put on. That was really easy to put on, to be honest. Yeah, my bike shed community motorcycle volunteer sticker, and the panniers have been much more useful than I thought. So I would definitely recommend them. And also, it puffs the bike out quite a lot if you're a bigger person, and it just makes the overall bike feel bigger.
So you'll see on my Instagram photographs that I've taken quite a lot of images of me stood next to the bike or sat on the bike, and I think it looks great. A lot of people will say to me, that's not a 125, that's got to be a 600 plus bike, until I start it up. So there's a little bit of, it does sound like a 125, absolutely, but it doesn't look like a 125 at all. So it was the only, and I say this honestly, it's the only bike that I felt comfortable, sat up properly. My knees are bent, yes, absolutely, with my feet touching the floor, but it feels like it's a bigger bike. So I put the touring screen on it. Again, the main objectives for my changes were to puff the bike out a little bit as well. So not only increase the practicality of having the Jivvy panniers on each side, which have been fantastic, but it just beefs up the overall look and feel of the bike. In terms of speed, on the flat, fully loaded, both panniers with the touring screen and me at 105 kilograms, I was doing 70 miles an hour on the A3, obviously legally on the A3, but if any slight gradient or a medium-sized hill, I'm down to 40, 45 miles an hour. But always felt very, very comfortable. And I did get a little bit nervous around 70 miles an hour on the A3 in certain traffic, but that was my first ride on the bike, picking up from Poole and doing a 3-hour trip back to London on the A roads, which was great fun. And I got to know the bike very well. I don't know a lot about engines, so I won't go into the details, but I'll give you the links. And for any learners that want to learn more about the statistics of the bike, there are 2 key websites for me. One is BikeBiz, so that is bikebiz.com, and bennetts.co.uk, which is the insurer as well. So those 2, you can't go far wrong with bike information. Just on the dash, as you can see on the image, you've got a nice dial set up with rev counter and odometer. You do have a fuel warning light, so you don't have a fuel indicator, but doing 80 miles to the gallon, I had to check whether that light was still working, because I couldn't remember the last time I filled it up. So one word of warning on the lights. It has, on the day running lights, it always has one light of the headlights on. With the full beam on, you get both lights, but it's not great in the dark. It's okay, but I did feel a little bit nervous just being able to see dials for the first time, and not great headlight either. So I don't necessarily need to ride in pitch black at all, so I haven't done so, but dawn and dusk, absolutely fine. I did put in a quad lock, and I was going to put in a dual USB attached to the battery, but I sold it, so I'll keep that dual USB for later. I wouldn't recommend changing anything aesthetically about the Varadero, or changing the wing. Wing mirrors are fantastic, especially if you're learning. They're very big, and depending on what year you get, they're either positioned on the front fairing or on the handlebars, but I would just keep it as standard as you can. It just gives people much more confidence in the bike. Mine had a few scrapes on it on both left and right where someone had dropped it. I didn't drop it, thankfully, and touch wood, I haven't dropped the bike yet. My Varadero didn't come with a centre stand. You can get centre stands for it, and just be aware that any parts that you want to get, either from the OEMs or manufacturers, do take some time, and obviously you can't get any brand new parts essentially in this country that I'm aware of for the Varadero 125. So my kickstand I had to replace from an older version. So just about the cost, yeah, I think the cost, I think they're around 4,500 new, possibly, but they do maintain their price really well, especially for an older bike that is discontinued. So I bought mine for around 2,000, just over £2,000. I put panniers on it, I put touring screen onto it, I looked after it, had a year's MOT, and I sold it for around £2,500 as well. So I didn't lose any money on it, but I did add certain aspects to it as well, just to make it, and I put on about 1,000 miles, I think, in around 3-4 months of riding. It's just the versatility of the bike that you can do a little bit of everything on it, whether you change the tyres and do some green laning, or you just pootling around town. I get around 75 to 80 miles to the gallon out of the bike, so it's a fantastic choice if you want to learn and do a lot of different things and still be able to go on quite busy roads. So I think all I'm going to say about the Varadero 125. It's been an amazing machine, especially if you're over 6 foot and over 100 kilos and you're wanting to learn to ride from an all-rounder bike. The Varadero 125 is the choice to get, I promise you. And please comment below if you disagree. I'd love to hear of alternatives, absolutely. And maybe they weren't there when I was checking out, or maybe I just didn't notice them. But I highly recommend the Varadero 125 as your first 125 learner bike.